All right, so going to go through how to choose the correct bottom bracket for your bike, which is going to match your bike and be adaptable to your current crankset. Or maybe you're getting a new crankset and you need to make sure that it's going to fit your bike and that new crankset. So you got to figure out what styles you have. Start by taking your crankset out. This one I already have the other arm off. I'm just going to go ahead and relax this clutch on the SRAM. We got that button there. That makes that super light. And then just take your chain off. It's more so about bottom bracket sizing than taking this crank off, but no. So now we got this opening right here. So right off the bat, I can tell that it's either a press fit where the bearings are sitting inside the frame, or it's threaded, or a lot of threaded bearings are sitting on the outside of the frame. So you see an extra thickness, maybe a ½ inch or so of extra material here. So here we have frame. This frame is either carbon or aluminum. And then right about there, frame stops, and then this portion right here is just the lip of the bottom bracket. So this width right here is not very much. So most of my bearing, you can see the silver portion here. That width right there is my bearing. So it's going roughly from this outer edge to this area here, which is going inside the frame. So this would be considered press fit. This unit is pressed into the frame. No threads involved whatsoever. So we're using some type of a device to squeeze this in, force it in. It's being held with friction. The other style is going to be a little more common on basic bikes, maybe at a lower price point. Here, it looks very similar to a press fit. We got a little bit of bottom bracket here. That's where I'm going to put my tool. Here's your frame. Here's my crankset. This is actually going to come off from here on. That's going to be removed. It's going to leave you with the square spindle. It's going to be a square tapered spindle. So this bottom bracket is actually a cartridge style. So it's all one piece, goes all the way through, and then comes out with, it's a two-point process. We're taking the arm off first, then we're sticking the tool on this area here and pulling that off here. But again, you're going to see this on bikes that are mid-range pricing, recreational type style. So square tapered spindle, bolt on the outside, crank arm. Probably the most common style, or pretty common, more common than press fit, is going to be this one here. So we got our frame, the red portion of the frame, and then we got this width here, and then we have crank arm. So the fact that I see this width here, that's my bearing sitting outside of the frame, not inside, not partially inside, completely outside. And then there's these arms that just have a spindle that shoots across for bracing and support. But this is going to be pretty common, usually on bikes at a higher level, getting into 1,000, 1,200 and up is pretty common. So some of the specs we're going to be looking for and that we're going to want to match up to our research when we're doing that, because it's going to be our bottom bracket shell. So that's just the metal frame right where my fingernail is there to there, right there, that width. And I'm going to use a micrometer, and I just want to catch this outer edge from there to right about there. And that's going to come in at 91.86, so we're going to round that off to 92. So that's going to be your closest number, 92. The next numbers are going to be pretty far away from that, so I have no problem rounding that off to 92 millimeters in width. And the numbers we're going to do is, you can measure the inside of your bearing here. This is the left side of the bike if you're sitting on it, or also called the non-drive side. So I'm going to flip my tool around, use the other side here. We're going to measure inner diameter and just applying good firm pressure. I'm coming in at a number of 22.14, so probably round that to 22. The other number I want to get is basically the diameter of this resting bottom bracket. So make sure we're still zeroed out here. I'm going to come on this outside edge. Boom. So I'm not hitting the frame, I'm just hitting the lip of the existing bottom bracket. Give it a little gentle squeeze there. And I got a number of 44.12. And then we're also going to measure, so now I'm on the right side of the bike if I'm sitting on it, also known as the drive side. We got our chain. So I'm going to measure the interior. Sometimes you get different sizes on either side. And this comes in at 23. So the other side was a little lower. 23.70. And the system is for a SRAM. This is a SRAM crankset. All right, so we're also going to measure this guy here. So I'm going to measure, this would be my left side or non-drive side. And there's a silver portion on here, and it's not, this side's not really polished, but that's where my bearing is going to ride, so it also has to fit through the bearing. This is where the sizes can be, diameter could be differ, and this measurement here does come in at 21.8, and then coming into the inside, this is my wavy washer. That always goes on first. And we're going to measure this inner portion, which does look like a polished area. That's the other second area where the bearing is riding. And this comes out to 24, so definitely wider on the drive side. Something to keep in mind. And the information, definitely want to take notes of any writing that's on there. So we got Pressfit GXP. GXP is going to be synonymous with SRAM and possibly Truvative. And then it also says MTB, so opposed to road.